Hello everyone and welcome to another Advanced Warfare video. This is going to be my first video in a new series I'm doing called If You Like, Let Me Suggest. A series where I take highly coveted elite variants of weapons that you probably don't have but really want and offer you a common, an enlisted, and a professional variant of a weapon that either has similar attributes, fits the same play style, or other things that should hold you over and satisfy your need for that elite weapon until you're lucky enough to get the elite weapon in your supply drop. In today's video, we'll be covering the AK-12 R.I.P. The AK-12 R.I.P. is the long-range elite variant of the AK-12, but it is also the most sought-after and coveted variant of the AK-12, and for very good reason. The standard stats that don't change on it fires 720 rounds per minute, has a 1.1 times headshot multiplier, which is not very good but pretty standard for this game. Moves at 90% of the base speed, which is standard for assault rifles, and has medium penetration, which is also standard for assault rifles. On the positive side of things, the R.I.P. receives a long-range damage buff, making it a 4-shot kill at every range rather than dropping off to 5 shots at long range like the standard AK-12. But more importantly, also receives a 20% reduced view kick recoil, making it basically the most accurate AR in the game. It is almost as accurate as a Pytech after the first 10 shots have been fired, which of course has zero recoil at all. It also receives a couple of nerfs. It loses 8 rounds in its magazine, going from 30 down to 22. That is a change that you will notice, and you'll want to run extended mags with it pretty much every time you use it. It also receives 10% longer ADS time, which is something I didn't really notice personally, but maybe you will notice that can also be very easily countered with quick draw grip. In short, the R.I.P. is subpar in close range, requiring 4 shots to kill and having a very average fire rate. It becomes very good at medium range, still requiring 4 shots to kill, and then becomes an absolute monster at long range because it has practically zero recoil and still only requires 4 shots to kill. It is not hard to see why the R.I.P. is a very sought after weapon. It is basically the best long range weapon in the game, short of an LMG or a sniper rifle. The closest common variant that would be a variant that everybody has access to that I could find would be the standard or base AK-12. It's unlocked from the start. All you have to do is buy the game and play it, and you'll have the base AK-12 unlocked. Where it is equal to the R.I.P. is in its short and mid-range damage, meaning that it is a 4-shot kill out to 40 meters. It also fires 720 rounds per minute, has a 1.1 times headshot multiplier, 90% movement speed, and medium penetration, just like the R.I.P. Where it's actually better than the R.I.P. is with an extra 8 rounds in the magazine, making it a 30-round magazine as opposed to 22, which again is very noticeable. And it has 10% faster ADS time, which is nice, but I don't really notice the difference personally. And where it is worse is at its long-range damage. It will drop off after 40 meters to being a 5-shot kill, while the R.I.P. is a 4-shot kill. It also has 20% more recoil, which, frankly, the AK-12 has great recoil. It is a very, very accurate weapon. It is just not quite as accurate as the R.I.P. So 20% more recoil ends up not really hurting it too bad, but will be noticeably more. It will be harder to hit long shots while still remaining very easy to hit long shots. And the iron sights are not as good, but they're still very good. The R.I.P. has the ghost style iron sights, while the AK-12 obviously has the advanced warfare style iron sights. Iron sights are more of a personal preference kind of thing, but most people I know of prefer the Ghost's iron sights. In short, the AK-12 is actually going to end up being a little bit better than the R.I.P. in close to medium ranges, because while it has the same shots to kill and the same fire rate, it does also have 8 extra rounds in the magazine, so you don't have to worry about running out of ammo and having to reload quite as often. However, it is not going to be as effective at longer ranges. I would say not quite significantly less effective, but noticeably less effective, because you will require 5 shots to kill, you will have 20% more recoil to deal with, and the iron sights are not as good if you're like me and prefer not to use an optic. For the enlisted variant, we're going to give you the IMR Impact, where it is the same as the R.I.P. is in its medium and long range damage, requiring just 4 shots to kill as far as the eye can see. It also has medium penetration, and in my personal opinion, the iron sights are just as good but no better than the R.I.P. And being a burst fire weapon, it's going to have very good long range accuracy, which is the strength of the R.I.P. and the reason that I'm suggesting this one as the enlisted variant. Where it's actually better than the R.I.P. is in its close range damage, which will require just 3 shots to kill. However, it should be noted that that only lasts for the first 4 meters, which is, within shotgun range, almost melee range. You're not going to get very many 3-shot kills with it. It also has a 36-round magazine, which is 14 shots more than the R.I.P. That's a very noticeable difference. You don't need extended mags with this one, while the R.I.P. extended mags are very necessary, or at least helpful. It will ADS 10% faster, which again is not that noticeable. It also prints its own ammo, so if you are someone like me who likes to run, Scavenger, so that you don't ever run out of ammo, this one you really don't need Scavenger on. It doesn't print ammo that fast. I believe it's something like 4 bullets every 5 seconds, but as long as you're not spamming it too hard, you won't have much issue running out of ammo. And it has a 4-shot burst for a 4-shot kill weapon, which means that at even the longest ranges, it will kill in 1 burst. And the 1 burst time to kill is 0.22 seconds, which is faster than the 4 shots time to kill of the R.I.P. if you're actually accurate enough to hit your entire burst. Where it's worse than the R.I.P. is that it seems to have no headshot multiplier at all. Most weapons in the game have a very poor headshot multiplier of maybe 10% more damage, which won't really affect your time to kill or your shots to kill or anything like that, but this one literally has no multiplier. You do a headshot, you'll get a reward for your headshot, and you'll get the neat little hit marker for the headshot, but you will not deal any more damage than if you shoot them in the foot. It is also a burst fire weapon, which means that you need to be more accurate. The burst delay is 1/10 of a second, which means that if you need a second burst to kill someone, your time to kill nearly doubles, going all the way up to 0.4 seconds. And that's a pretty significant deal. If you are a more accurate player, then this weapon will actually be better than the AK-12. But if you are a less accurate player and you're going to need that second burst fairly often, or you have a bad connection and your shots aren't registering with the game, causing you to need that second burst more often, you're going to have a bad time using this weapon when you could be using the R.I.P. In short, statistically speaking, the impact is actually better than the R.I.P. in just about every measurable statistic you can find. However, the R.I.P. is more rewarding, or more forgiving, I should say. Being a full auto assault rifle, you're not going to need to worry about being as accurate or dealing with burst delay, things like that. So, depending on the type of player you are, you will still prefer the R.I.P. It is still a better gun. However, if you don't have the R.I.P. and you do have the impact, it will fit the same playstyle and get you by very nicely until you get the R.I.P. And for the professional variant, we have the AK-12 Bleeder, or as people have recently started calling it, the Diet R.I.P. And of course, by people, I mean just me, so far. Let's see if we can get that to catch on. Where it is the same as the R.I.P. is in its damage. It actually deals more damage than the R.I.P. However, these statistics say the same. It is a 4-shot kill at every single range. It has a 1.1 times headshot multiplier. It has 90% movement speed and medium penetration, all the same as the R.I.P. Where it is better than the R.I.P. is the 10% ADS time and 8 more rounds in the magazine, bringing it up to 30, which is standard for the AK-12. And where it is worse than the R.I.P. is it has 20% more recoil, which actually is not that noticeable because of where else it's worse than the R.I.P. is 600 rounds per minute as opposed to 720 rounds per minute. That lower fire rate will mean that you have, if not the same recoil, actually better recoil than the R.I.P. because there's more time between shots for your weapon to recenter itself, but it is a noticeable drop in fire rate. You will lose a lot of gunfights that you would have won with the R.I.P. in closer ranges because of that terrible fire rate. However, aside from the R.I.P., it is probably the best assault rifle at long ranges. It is extremely accurate. There's not really a whole lot to talk about on this one, as we've already talked about the R.I.P. and the standard AK-12, and pretty much everything to say about this one has already been said. So in short, this is going to be a terrible, terrible weapon up close. You'll lose to just about everything in the game because of that 4-shot kill and low rate of fire. However, at longer ranges, it really is a very strong weapon if you're someone who is good at predicting enemy movements and putting yourself in position to have an advantage over them. You can easily find an advantage with this one at longer ranges. While the time to kill is relatively slow at every range, being able to actually hit every shot and just hold the trigger down and watch your bullets fly straight every time will make this a lot easier to use at longer ranges than something like a Ball 27 or a H-Bra 3 or that sort of thing. Thanks for listening and watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please leave me a comment letting me know what variant you'd like me to cover next. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on future content. And until my next video, adios, Nicole.